Hi, I'm Corey. Welcome to Creating with Scraps. This video is a brief flip through that was requested of this completed simple snowfall journal and a variety of answers to questions that I'd been asked that needed some clarification. So it should hopefully be pretty quick. This kit, it's a simple tiny little journal, but this kit is Simple Snowfall from Tracy Fox Creative, and it's one of the many gorgeous kits she's put out recently. The measurements are 5 by 3 on this, and then I used a fabric spine with a little bit different type of a binding, simple binding, a non-sew type binding. To create the effects that I got here, I used some Tim Holtz Ranger products. For example, one of the questions I received was these pine cones. They were just, a simple charm, I guess. And then I added 2 products to get that look. I added the grit paste Snowfall from Ranger, and then I sprinkled, not the mica flakes, I sprinkled some of the clear rock candy glitter on it. And so here, I'll try to show it up so you can see the effect. And it was really easy. I just spread, pardon my fingers, I've been working with the piano. You can see the difference. This is how it started, and then I just used my fingers to dab a little bit of the grit paste on it, and then sprinkled a little bit of the rock candy on and let it dry. It was really that quick and easy. This is one of the Tim Holtz label, or not labels, they're metal tag label word deal things. There's probably a name for it, but I apologize. And it had those little loops at the end, and I didn't want to adhere it with the little loops. I wanted to use collage medium, and yes, collage medium works great to hold plastic and metal on plastic. That thing is not going anywhere. It just had a little bit of time needed to dry. Anyway, what I did was I used my wire snippers, and I just cut that little loop off the end on both sides, and then just used my emery board and filed it down. So that's how I was able to get the image I wanted without those little loops. And then on the insides of the cards, so the images themselves were what were in the kit, and they're simply stunning, but I wanted to enhance the winter feel of it. And I used 3 products for that. I didn't, 2 products. Well, I guess I did use 3. All right, so I used put a little bit of collage medium on, because it is also a glue, just a little bit of collage medium. And then I sprinkled some of these mica flakes on top of that, and then I used the clear rock candy, and then I got a scrap piece of paper and kind of like patted it down to kind of make it stick in there, and then I just let it dry. It took seconds, literally. The edges of this kit, I pulled out all my metal waxes, and this one is called Old Silver, and it's again the Art Alchemy brand. It's several years old, but I imagine it's still available somewhere. But I used this Old Silver on the edges to, again, pick up the silver tones and the snowy look. So those are the products I used to get this. Oops, sorry about that. Vintage lace for the spine. These are the images. There wasn't on this kit. It's about tags and such, and it's absolutely beautiful, but there's not a background sheet. So what I did was I took bits of leftover pieces of the tags and I collaged them together to create the background. And I do have transparency over the top to make sure that the glitter and the mica stays in place. So if you see a glare, that's what that is. I apologize. I put a little calendar here because I intend to use this through January, and used mica and transparency, mica and rock candy to make a little pocket. And then I just took die cut letters, and I think this is Studio Classic or Diesel, an old die cut set from Quick Cuts. And then I put a little bit of on the letters themselves, I put a little bit of this Snowfall grit paste and let it dry, and then again with the mica and rock candy in here. And then I just took quotes about silence and put them on the other side. So the book itself has 7 sets of pages, and they say silence, and then each set of pages has a different quote. This is Quick Cuts Punch, and again with the Snowfall grit paste and a little bit of rock candy to give it that sparkle to tie it through. And then silver on the edges. Rather than my normal ink, I used just a tiny bit of that silver wax to get that look. And then each of the tops, well, my fingers are sore, but each of the tops of the 2 pages put together, the pockets, have a pull-out journaling card. So there's a space to journal on every page. And again, I just really wanted the images, because they're so beautiful, to be the shine and the focus of this. I was done with most of this fairly quickly because it really is a very simple journal, but the spine took me a while to figure out. I went with 3 or 4 different things before I finally landed on one that I was pleased with, because I wanted it to lay flat, and that is the beauty of a soft spine. It allows you to open your pages and lay them flat. These are chipboard, so they're nice and sturdy, but the spine is fabric. And so that is that creation. And then here I just made a little notepad, again using some of the grit paste, the Snowfall grit paste and rock candy glitter, and that is actually the title of the kit. I just cut that out and put it on there because I just thought it was really pretty. And this, again, transparency with mica flakes and the rock candy glitter underneath. And so there is that little journal, and that is how I made it. I'll move to these off to the side. All right, so that was that one. Piano. I've had people ask me why I'm tearing apart an old piano. Well, a couple reasons. One, I just thought it would be cool. 2, I thought it would be really fun because I knew that the piano has a gazillion bits. This one was in 1906, and it made sounds, but they weren't pretty sounds. And it was going to go to a landfill, and I've had it for a couple of years in my garage. My husband is thrilled that I'm finally tearing it apart. But I really want the opportunity to take some of these, non-dangerous pieces. I cut off the sharp edges and such to my students and let them do a STEM activity, because look how cool some of these are. I mean, you can put these together. I mean, I don't know how, but you could put these together and take things apart, and you could make those rebots, the recycled robots. And there's just a ton of different things that you can do with these. And just thought it was really, really cool to play with. And honestly, I figured it had to get put together, and this was before molded plastic. So if they could put it together, I could take it apart. And that's how you somebody asked how I take apart an old piano. You take it apart one rusty old screw at a time. Now this is not all. I've got a whole bunch more to disassemble, but these are just some of the screws. And that and the metal pieces that you find inside are the reason that old pianos weigh 6 million pounds, because they are super heavy. The other thing is, like I said, it was headed to a landfill, and I thought that I could take out the metal bits like this. There's a bunch of these things. I could take these out and take them to the metal recycle place so that they wouldn't fill our landfill and they could get repurposed into something else. So that is the piano take apart thing answered. I had a question about these journals. I said that I was going to put writing boards in them because, even though it lays mostly flat, but there is some bolts behind some of the pages. So what I did to do that is I had got at a repurposed store a while ago. These are valance, or vertical blinds, and they're a canvasy material that are coated a little bit. So I just cut off the top, and I used this canvas section to make a belly band on the back of the book, on both of the 2 book journals, for to hold the writing board. And I was also asked, what is a writing board and how do you make it? Well, I'm sure there's more than one way, like everything else with junk journaling, but the way I do it, and so that just, I used Velcro to hold it in place. That just holds the journaling board in place so that's easily accessible and usable and doesn't add too much bulk. Could have put it on the back cover too, but I wanted it tucked inside. And the way I do that is this. I'll get some chipboard, and I find that the cereal boxes from Costco, you know how they package them in the bigger, bulkier boxes, at least the Cinnamon Toast Crunch and the Honey Nut Cheerios. The chipboard is a little bit thicker than a regular box of cereal, so I really like these for chipboard, or for writing boards, or for covers, because they're sturdy without being super thick, and it's a recycled product. So the way I do it is this. I'll get whatever images I want to use, and I'll do one on copy paper and one on cardstock, or I'll just use a piece of cardstock. And then I wrap the board with the copy paper, the thinner copy paper. I'll put glue down here, put it down, score the edges, around the edges, roll it up, and put it down. And then the top piece that I do in cardstock, I'll cut that 1/16 of an inch smaller than the size, and then I'll put that on top. And I do it that way for a couple reasons. One, so you can write on either side, and two, because it makes it sturdy. If you try to wrap these with cardstock, it works, but it doesn't work as well. Honestly, it just, it's a little bit bulkier, and it wraps really well with the 24-pound copy paper. So that's what I do. And then I coat the whole thing with a clear coat of collage medium. And I do that for a couple of reasons. One, it makes it a little bit more durable. And two, if you're writing, you're using a writing board and your pen moves, you don't want to get necessarily a pen mark on your writing board. So this kind of protects it. You can wipe it off real quick. I don't tend to collage my writing boards because the idea with the writing board is to have a smooth surface. So I try to find paper without texture for that, and I'll go with the texture and dimension from the images that I put on. Just a personal preference. Anything works, but that's what I do and why I do it. All right, next thing, I've been asked how I get the effect with the coffee dyed paper, that it just turns it brown. Well, one of the things I do two things basically. I'll brew the coffee a couple days in advance, and if you brew it and let it sit too long, it'll grow mold. And yes, I've done that too. But I let it sit for a couple days. And then I run my paper through and I let it dry. And then if I feel like it needs a little bit more, I'll just pick up the coffee on my fingers, just get some, and then splatter a little bit. And that'll give me more splattery effects. But that's how I get the effects that I get with coffee. Yeah. That's my process. Pretty straightforward and simple. Okay, let's see. What did I cover? Oh, the fundraiser. It's funny. Yesterday, Carrie Fellows from Witchcraft Do You Do, and I were talking about, just randomly chatting, and talking about our word of the year for 2023, and we both joked that we needed to use the word focus. Talk about a 180 for me, from squirrel this year to focus next year. That might be too much of a stretch, but I really think I might go with discover. For a lot of reasons. The piano, discovering what it's like to take apart a piano. That was really a cool experience. Well, still in process. But I'm thinking my word for 2023 might be discover. I'm leaning in that direction. Coffee paper, parted piano, completed writing boards. Craft room. People have asked me about my craft room. Yes, my craft room is in my garage. It was an addition, or it was framed in basically when we moved in here. But there are no windows, and there are 5 doors in here because it's also used to store the water heater in the furnace and such. So I'm really thinking, well, I've made the commitment to move to my guest room. I just haven't built the pieces that I need yet because I've been ill. But that is coming up. So for 2023, I will hopefully have a new craft room, and I will share that with you. The A to Z prize journal. So I was a participant with Rose from Journals in Time and Rachel from Rachel and Bella Crafts and a whole bunch of other amazing artists. And I did the advent calendar, and I moved it over. Did the advent calendar and showed how I made that in a little bit different type of a spine inside of a journal for people who don't necessarily like to sew in the spines. And I created a prize because most of the people involved do digital kits. Their prizes were digital. Well, mine, I don't do digital kits. That's what I go to Tracy for. And I created a journal, and I showed them how I did the spine. So I finished this up, well, as much as I'm going to finish it up yesterday, because I want the recipient, the winner of the journal, to be able to do what they want to do with it. But I'll show it to you real quick. And then the concept. Oh, and the winner for this is Katie Baird. And I will contact Katie to let her know. And Corey, why didn't you wait till the end of the thing to choose a winner? Because if this is going to be used as a December daily, I want to get it to her before December so that she can choose to use it or not, or gift it or whatever. So that's why I finished it up, and just from the people that commented, I picked this morning. I did one of those random generator deals, and Katie Baird's name was the one that came up, which is ironic because my granddaughter's last name is Baird. So anyway, all the digitals in this are from the kit, and the kit is purchasable. Well, there's a link on the previous video, and you can go to their shops and purchase the kit. So the cover has some vintage lace. I went easy on the lace because I didn't want to make it thick, but the poinsettia pieces that I got from Hobby Lobby that I used on the advent calendar, and then just layered some bits and pieces. And then I used a vintage lace actually I think this one's antique. I think this is 1907 lace to tie this closed. And then what I did was I just tucked in little bits and pieces from my own stash and then from the kit as well, like some journaling cards that can be used. And these are some vintage 1970s, I think, Christmas postage stamps. And then in here, in this little pocket, are 2 calendars, one for 2023 and then one for 2022. So this can be used as they want. They're those little peel apart desktop type calendars. I had found in my stash a vintage postcard. It doesn't say the year on here. Printed in Germany. Anyway, I found one that I thought went beautifully with the bells on there, so I included that because, can't be completely empty. But the idea with this is that Katie can use it however she wants. This first page, there's 32 pages, so the first page can be used as a dedication page or, any way you want, an extra memory kind of a thing. If 25 pages is all that you wanted to do the December daily up through Christmas, then you could do, 2-page spreads on some so that you would not have too many pages. But if you wanted to do one a day for 31 days, it's got that option as well. Now, I didn't decorate anything. I want Katie to be able to do what she wants with it. But I did include some other things. Like here's a 1913 postcard, vintage postcard that, again, the colors worked really well with it. And then this is just some little notebook paper, some Christmas-themed notebook paper that, in case for extra journaling and such. Tuck those in the pockets. The strings. I left the strings long. I didn't put anything on them. Some people absolutely dislike strings. Some people really like them. So I wanted the recipient, who is now Katie, to be able to do what she wanted with those. These were designed to hold photos. This book is wide enough to put 4x6 photos in there. If you choose to, of course, you could use any other memorabilia. But that's my reasoning for it. All the pages have been inked and glued together. They're finished off. Again, I left all of these long enough that they can either be trimmed or dangles tied onto them if you choose. I made a couple little pockets, and I'll show in a different video how I did that, to add an option. And then there's some stickers for the page numbers if you want to go that route. And then another vintage postcard. This one from, looks like 1916, maybe. And then just a little library card. It's for page decoration or what have you, just however they choose to be used. And then the back one, I put a little pocket on for all the pieces that can be used upon the days. And so these are just images cut from the kit, and then I inked around them all. And most of them have Nouveau Deluxe Crystal Glaze on the top, and I'll show you here what I did with those. So images that are the areas that popped up, I've just put a little bit of the Nouveau glaze on it to let it dry, just to give extra dimension and sheen to these. And then I put them inside the pocket in this little sleeve, thinking that this little sleeve could also be used as a page decoration if you chose to, or if there was some more memorabilia. And then I made just a little cluster that you could put on top if you chose, or you can use it anywhere, of course. But to close this up and reuse it so it doesn't have to be used just once and done. Or I fussy cut this one, and that could be also used too if you chose to hold it closed that way. So that was my rationale for that, and I'll put those back in. And then on the back, again, a couple more, a Christmas card, a vintage postcard, and then I think this is just a large cut apart. I just like the colors. So that is the prize. And Katie, I will either, if I don't have your address, I'll get a hold of you, and I will send this to you soon. So there is that. That was really a lot of fun to make. And actually, it was really good for me to do both the simple Snowfall journal and this, because I tend to overdo just about everything, and I really enjoyed the simplicity of this. I mean, there's enough detail on it to be kind of fun, but it's also really simple in a thin line journal. The focus can be on the words and the memories. All right, let's see, I think Advent sale. Okay, so the Advent calendar and this piece, if there's interest, I am going to put them in my Etsy shop and sell them for my fundraiser. And I do winter holidays around the world, including Yola Boca Flood with my students every year. And I teach at a fairly low-income school, and I don't want any of the families to be burdened with the costs associated with a Christmas or a winter holiday party. And so what I'm going to do is a Christmas party in a bag or a winter holiday party in a bag and provide all the treats for the kids inside those. And I'm going to do that through the fundraiser that I'm going to mention next. This and the advent calendar will, if there's interest, will both either go on my Etsy or just send me a message and we can arrange something. Corey, why aren't you keeping that advent calendar? Well, the reason I'm not keeping that advent calendar is I made it just for this event, and I purchased one of the Christmas kits from Paula Cheney, who is one of the creative minds behind Ideology with Tim Holtz, and I'm making an advent calendar with the kit that she purchased, or that I purchased from her. My friend Christy and I are both doing those. And of course, she uses all Tim Holtz products, which are fabulous, but I intend to change it up a little bit. And so my family advent calendar, I've designed it to fit to a specific location size, and I'm going to be using the kit that I purchased from her, hence the reason that one is available. And I've made my own personal kits all advent calendars, so there's not a family member that one can go to. So I'll use the funds for their winter holiday party in my classroom. So there's that. And then the fundraiser. What is the fundraiser? Well, I'll sell those 2 pieces, and the proceeds from the bug books, the 2 bug books, they've been sold, will go to that as well. And this was kind of a squirrel based on some other comments in previous videos about where do you find your vintage ephemera and that kind of a thing. So I thought I'd call them fundraising bundle or fundle. And here I'll pull these off. One thing that sweet Gail Augustinelli does with her merch line is she does ink and think. And I had this idea last year sometime, and I made these a long time ago. And I said, oh, Gail, you could do this and, make a little bit more money. And she says, no, I can only use the merch that they have, but why don't you use that for your students? And that's exactly what I'm doing. I have got 57 of these, so I'm going to sell 57 of these fundles. And they will contain 10 items-ish or more. I mean, it's me, it could be 10 for 10, basically. And they're all vintage items or antique items, I guess. Well, no, not really, because these aren't vintage. So it'll include a Think and Ink, and these are just chipboard, and I've stenciled Ink and Think on them. And this is what I use. Well, I've got a broken down one here because I had to trim it down. But this is what I use for heavyweight to put behind my thin paper when I ink the edges. And then there's also a tag corner and then 2 different sizes of rounded corners. So if you're inking a rounded corner, that's what these are for. But Gail gave me permission to use her expression and to use this as a fundraiser. And most of the font is like this, but there's one other. I had ordered a stencil. This one is the other one. I had ordered the stencil and the stencil broke. I mean, like within a few tags. So I'm like, okay, I'll make my own. And I just used some transparency, some quick cuts dies that I had, and did ink and think that way. And then I cheated and I just cursived the and in the middle. So each fundle will contain that. One of those. It'll contain a vintage playing card or 2 because I have a ton of vintage playing cards and they're cool. They make great tucks inside of a journal. So I will include a vintage playing card or 2, a vintage and or antique postcard. Most of them are unused that I have, but they're all old. I got them at a yard sale several years ago. Most of them are unused, but some of them are used. So it'll contain a vintage postcard. A couple of these transparency slides. Again, found them. I think I got these in Shipshawana at the auction there. A couple old transparency slides. Some postage stamps. When it's possible, like this one's from 1967, when it's possible, I'll include the background piece. But if I don't have that, if I just have this stamp, I'll put in some vintage postage stamps. Vintage card catalog cards. Freaking love these things. I'm a library fan, and these old cards from card catalogs just make me happy. And they're great journal inserts, so it'll include at least one of those. It will include a vocabulary card. Teacher in Me comes out. And these are all vintage vocabulary cards. These are not digital images reprinted from a variety of languages. I've got 3 or 4 different languages here: Greek, Spanish, German, I don't know, what else? Maybe there's even some English ones. So it'll have a a vocabulary card. It will have a cigarette or tea card. Now, some of these they're all vintage and they're all real. They're not digitals. Variety of images. Maybe you'll get fish eating fish. I don't know. But some are called tea cards and some are called cigarette cards. So I'll put in one or two of those in each of the bundles. And then these, I found they're all antique, canceled checks. And I bought a whole bunch of them when I found them. Love, love, love using these things because you can fold them up and tuck them in, and it's, authentic vintage ephemera. And so that was number 9. And the 10th item will be something that I've made, just a random bit. Well, I have got a stack. I've got a whole bin. Okay, here we go. I've got a whole bin done. So maybe you'll get something like this, just a little. Maybe I should turn it right side up. Maybe it's just a little notepad. Maybe it's a little card. Maybe it's a cluster. I mean, I've got an entire bin full of stuff. So I'll put 1 or 2 little bits in there. So it'll be at least 10 pieces. And again, the money will be used for our winter holiday party around the world. I will provide the gift bags for the kids with that. Well, actually, you will provide the gift bags. I'll just put them together. I think I've answered all the questions that I would have. that were written down that I wanted to either clarify or show. If you've got another, please pop it below, and I'll try to write it down and address it at another time. I do have some of the One Sheet Wonders ready to go, so I'll be making videos in the next few days, hopefully, regarding those. And I think that's it. Thank you all so very much. Thank you for supporting Tracy's shop. She does amazing, incredible things, and I'm always happy to be able to share some of the things that she does because they're great to work with. Thank you for the people who purchased the bug books. I hope you enjoy those, and they will get shipped out in the next day or two. And Katie, send me a message. I think I have your address, but if I don't, if it's not, I think it's on my Etsy shop. But if I don't, just pop it in my email to me, and I will make sure and get that mailed to you. All right, thank you all very much for watching. Take care and happy creating.